an assertion that was made not too long ago, this idea, this myth that, first of all, that this law, SB 8, provides ample time for a victim of abuse to seek abortion care. Because once again, we're in a room of legislators who are attempting to legislate reproductive systems that they know nothing about. 6 weeks pregnant, and it's shameful that this education even needs to happen because this conversation shouldn't even be held in a legislative body. 6 weeks pregnant is 2 weeks late for one's period. When you are raped, you don't always know what happened to you. You are shocked, and I speak about this as a survivor. You are in so much shock, and by the way, people who commit abuse and victims and survivors of sexual assault are overwhelmingly assaulted by someone they know. And this myth that it's some person lurking on a street or in a parking lot waiting to sexually assault you, that myth only benefits the abusers in power that want you to think that that's how it happens. It's your friend, it's a boyfriend, it's a boss, it's a legislator. You are in so much shock at what happened to you, sometimes it takes years to realize what actually went on. So this idea that victims know in the 2 weeks that they might be late for their period, I'm a $115. I'm 115 pounds. You look at me funny, I'm 2 weeks late for my period. And you're supposed to expect me to know that I'm pregnant? Or the stress of a sexual assault, that makes you 2 weeks late for your period, whether you're pregnant or not. Unbelievable, unbelievable that the Republican side would call a witness so irresponsible and hurtful to survivors across this country. Honestly. Deserve your constituents an apology. Now, Professor Ross, yes or no, is it a common tactic for an abuser to sabotage their partner's birth control? Are you on?
Turn on your mic.
Yes, they keep silencing my mic. I'm not. Yes, I hear it all the time. I've heard from women, particularly when they're in the control or power of their abuser. They do it all the time. And we've seen people who are forced to continue pregnancy, and we've seen people who are forced and coerced into having abortions. And that's why it has to be the woman's choice and not the people with power over her.
Thank you, Professor. And so, as you said, it is a very common tactic for an abuser to sabotage a partner's birth control, a victim's birth control. Now, in your advocacy experience, would you say that abusers often do this to intentionally try to get their partners pregnant without sometimes their knowledge?
Yes, that happened. Now, in my case, I don't think my abuser, my rapist, married cousin wanted me to be pregnant because he ran as soon as he found out that my father knew. But I do hear women's stories all the time. And there's so many circumstances. You can't come up with one story that fits all those different circumstances.
Thank you, Professor. And as we can see that abusers will sabotage their partner's birth control in an effort to exert power and control over them. Dr. Moyetti, when we see that the tactics of abusers on a personal level, the attempt to control and sabotage a victim's reproductive care and control over themselves, then becomes mass adopted by overwhelmingly, frankly, cisgender male state legislatures. How do you see a connection between these abuse dynamics in person and how they inform a culture in which they could be affirmed, or in which these laws could potentially help or assist abusers in this dynamic?
Yeah, so unfortunately, our country is actually founded on reproductive control and coercion of enslaved Africans and of indigenous people. So this is actually a historical tactic in our country and a method of upholding white supremacy. So that has not changed and continues today.
Thank you very much, Doctor, and my time has expired. I yield back to the chair.
Thank you. The gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Clyde, is recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Clyde.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's quite evident that this hearing is strategically placed to distract from the massive $4.3 trillion spending bill that the Democrats want to hide from the American people, a bill that will further bankrupt our country, saddle us with trillions more in debt, and create federal programs that fundamentally change America into a big government socialist nation. That's because the Democrats passed their bill, H.R. 3755, that pertains to today's topic last week. We hold hearings to gather expert input on bills before they pass, not after they're passed.